Hello and welcome back to my desk. In this video I wanted to quickly run through the 3 core planners and notebooks that hold basically everything in my life. So having experimented with so many variations of this over the years, this is where I currently am, and I feel like this is probably where I'll stay for the foreseeable future. I don't think I need to add anything to this setup, and I also couldn't do without any of these 3. So I'll go through them each in turn and explain how I use them and give you a few examples of how I've used them, particularly over the last few months. So I'll start with my planner journal. This is a Sterling Ink common planner, which is a planner and journal combined. This is the B6 Slim size, which for me, again, having experimented with so many different sizes, this is kind of my perfect size planner. I think it is because of how it feels to hold it and how portable it feels. It's got exactly, for me, exactly the right amount of space to write in while still being portable. And also I'm coming to the end of the first full year in this now, and it's got a good kind of chunky size to it. So I've divided this planner up into 4 sections, which really mirror the way it was designed. So the monthly spreads here I call it a snapshot. So for each day I just write between 1 and 3 words, really, just a very brief summary of either the highlight of that day or something significant, a memory, or it's not always a positive thing. I try and make it a positive thing. It isn't always. It is just kind of the standout moment from that day, and then I decorate it as best I can, just to something to have a little creative outlet each month. Try and decorate it in line with, as you can see, some go better than others. Just decorate it a bit kind of in line with where we are, what's happening that month, the season, or something like that. So this has been a really nice, like I say, just a snapshot of what's been happening each day of the year. And then in the weekly section, and this has got all my day-to-day appointments and things, so I've just found a page that I can share. It's very briefly appointments down the left-hand side. Each day is colour-coded. This has changed a bit more recently, but basically the green is my freelance days. The pink was the days that I was creating resources. I'm not doing that anymore. The blue is my part-time job. The orange is like my flexible days, catch-up time, admin, things like that. And yellow is days off or family days, things like that. And then I just use this right-hand page as a simple to-do list. And these are mostly personal to-dos. I'll share in my other notebook. Having kept them together earlier on in the year, I've started to separate these now. So these are more like personal tasks, and I keep my work tasks in a separate notebook. But sometimes they do get added in here because, to be honest, if I think of something and I don't want to forget it, I just write it down in whichever planner I've got to hand, and usually it's this one. So the weeks just go through generally where I am, what my core focus is for that day, any appointments and meetings and general to-dos for that week. And then what I love about these common planners is that they are a planner and journal combined. So even at this end of year stage where they're quite chunky, this section is the planner and this is all journal. And I've still got plenty of space there for the last month or so of the year. But I separated the journal with a cover page, and then I've done a number of things in the journal. A lot of it is writing, a lot of it is just getting stuff out of my head and on paper. But I've tried to do a few other things like bits of art. I've done bits of planning around my hobbies and other kind of ambitions or creative projects. I've got a mini printer now that I use, so I've started to add photos from days out or significant events. I also add in sort of mini book reviews or quotes from books that I've been reading that I've enjoyed and I just want to remember. I also use it to log what we've done on holidays, have a section specifically for each holiday, and just, I suppose, where I feel like it, to do a bit more creative journaling. I don't like to put too much pressure on myself that every page has to be beautiful and creative, because for me it is, the main purpose of this is to get the swirling thoughts out of my head and onto paper. And if that's all I use it for, then that's great. I do sometimes enjoy making it a bit more colourful or creative, but I try not to put any pressure on myself to make it that any more than I feel like it. So that's the journal section, which will run right through to the end of this planner. So next we'll have a look at my work planner. Sometimes I call this my work bullet journal, but whatever it is entirely focused on work, but more specifically kind of just keeping track of what I need to do each day. And the purpose of this was to feel a little bit more in control without relying on too much technology or task management apps and things like that. I actually started this because my work situation was changing and I felt like I had quite a few different conflicting priorities almost to manage, and I just needed to find a way to stay organised and in control of it, really. My work, in its simplest terms, is split between a part-time job and my freelance work. And those things, although the work itself is very similar, the way that I do it is very different, and the way that I have to track it and log it and all of those things are quite different. So the purpose for this was really to look which days were for my job, which days were for freelance, which days could I be flexible on and do any other side projects that I wanted to do, which were my days off. And then each day, what were my priorities, what were the main tasks that needed to be done, and then where I needed to do so with my freelance work, logging the hours that I'd done for each client. So obviously I can't show you too much in here because this is mostly confidential, but just to give a bit of an indication, I've recently set up a new month in here. So before I've written any details in it, I'll list my clients that I've got booked in for the month ahead, the number of days that I've agreed to work for them, and then I just mark on here when I've invoiced them at the end of the month. Although I've stopped doing my more formal training and resources, I've kept this in a bit almost to remind me to have a couple of days where possible to do something a bit more creative, to make a video or write something. And then I've just briefly highlighted which days are days off. Yellow, as I mentioned in my previous planner, blue is my part-time job, green are freelance days. Every time I do some work for a client, I'll just log the hours on the specific day that I've done that, and then I can add it up at the end of the month. So that's what I set up at the beginning of each month. And then going through the weeks, I write the date that's at the start of that week and highlight that just so I can easily flick back and see, right, which is a new week in here. And then I add to that any tasks that are carried over from the previous weeks or months. So anything that hasn't been checked off gets added to that list of outstanding tasks. And then I do basically a daily bullet journal log for each day. So I'll write the date, and then what I've started to do is write the numbers 1, 2, 3 with the priorities for each day. So those are the core things that, if those are the only 3 things that get done that day, that's absolutely fine. I then put with a little circle any appointments or meetings that I've got booked in that day, and then following that, any other potentially lower priority tasks I just put with a bullet point. I then use the right hand side if necessary to just make any meeting notes or notes from calls, things like that. Just little things to remember or things to follow up. And then when I've finished a week and a month, I just go through and put a tick in the bottom corner of that page, and that just indicates that everything on that page has either been actioned or it's been carried forward to the next week or month. And so far, I've used this for a few months now, and so far this is really helping me to feel kind of on top of things and in control as best as possible while things are kind of picking up work-wise and getting quite busy. And then finally, the latest addition to my planner lineup is this little pocket-sized Rhodia notebook, which I love. I love the colour of this as well. But I realised that, especially as this planner is getting quite chunky, and also I would say the only issue with the common planner being a combined planner and journal is that the more you write in it, the more of your personal stuff you put in it, the less you want to take it everywhere, the more you want to kind of make sure you're not just going to leave it on a train or something like that. So the reason that I got this was to have something in my bag every day, so that I never felt, I always feel lost if I don't have some sort of notebook and pen with me. But so I always had something with me if I wanted to do a little bit of journaling, if I wanted to do a little bit of planning. But mainly it's kind of a book of reminders and little notes and things like that. I'm really trying to spend less time on my phone. And so, for example, if I'm going to sit in a cafe somewhere on my own for a while, just have a bit of time out, I'm really trying not to pick my phone up, but instead to pick up this and just make a few notes on something or some ideas I've got for a project or whatever. But it's also become something that's really helpful to have out and about. And yes, I use Google Maps and all of those things, but for example, I've started to use this when we were going on a trip to add in flight details, directions to the city centre, a bit about local public transport and things like that. So that I'm not entirely relying on my phone, and also you can't always rely on it when you're travelling anyway. Just a few ideas, things that come to mind that are not necessarily tasks, but just that'd be a nice thing to do in the future. Lists of places that we'd like to go as a family, and just general notes and things like that. So its purpose really is to just be able to have something with me all the time that I'm not going to worry about losing it. It doesn't have loads of personal information in it, but it is a bit of a catch-all for anything. What I've realised is that I can manage my anxiety much better if I, instead of worrying that I'm going to forget something, I just take that worry away and just write it down and just get over the fact that I can't remember everything like I feel like I used to be able to. So if I write it down, it's there, it's captured somewhere, and I can move on. So that's what this has become, and it's perfectly sized, perfectly portable to just carry in the little bag. If I don't have my big work bag, it fits in every bag that I have. So it's been perfect for that. And so those are the 3 planners, notebooks that make up my lineup at the moment. The only thing that will change is I've ordered the exact same Sterling Ink Common Planner for 2026. The other 2 I will use until I've run out of pages, and then probably replace them with a similar format. So I feel like this is quite stable at the moment. This is really all I need right now to stay organised and on top of everything. And I'm really enjoying using all 3 of these notebooks in quite different ways.